In this video, let's take a look at a method of instruction for beginners. So I want to start a new sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to draw a couple of center lines to start out with. So I'll draw a center line above the origin, and I want to make this center line into a dynamic mirror center line. Now you might have to go into the tools, the sketch tools, and find that dynamic mirror here. So then I'm going to draw a line, and I recommend that beginners draw one line or one circle or one rectangle and dimension it immediately for a sense of scale for the rest of their model. I'll dimension this line as 1.5. The distance from here to here for overall 3, and then I want to put in a diametral dimension from here to the center line. So when I do that diametral dimension, I'll pick this line and pick this line, not the end point. I'll pick this center line, and then if I click above the center line, it puts in a radius. If I click below the center line, it puts in a diametral dimension. So I want this to be a diametral dimension, so I'll click below the center line, and I'll put in the 1.25. I will now continue around modeling or sketching the rest of my design, and so let's put this back on dynamic mirror, and then I'm going to draw a line up from here. I'll come up at an angle, I'll come up vertical. Notice as I'm putting the lines in here that SolidWorks is automatically putting a vertical constraint on that line. And if I get in the right location, it will automatically put a parallel constraint to that line. And then I'll come up, and then I'm going to move my mouse away from the end of this line, and then when I bring it back, it changes to an arc dimension or an arc geometry. And so I'll click for that arc, I'll come over, and then I'll click on this line, and that closes up my sketch. Now that I have my sketch closed up, I'll go ahead and put the rest of the dimensions on here. So I'll put the dimension for this distance at 0.25, and from here to here, this distance as 2.256, and the distance from here to here is 0.25. And then the distance from here to here as 0.75. Now on this one, I want from the top of this arc to this line. So I'll select that line, and I'll hold down the shift key and select the arc. Otherwise it would go to the center of the arc. By holding the shift key, it goes to the top of the arc, and that would be 4.425. And then I'll put in the distance from this line down to here. Now this time I don't want to hit the center line, I want to hit the midpoint. Now actually it doesn't matter as long as you put your dimension above the center line. It will be a radial dimension rather than the diameter dimension. And so I'll do that at 3.45, and I'll put in the 15 degree from here to here. Okay, now at that point I might have expected everything to be fully constrained. So when something isn't fully constrained, I start dragging blue endpoints. When I drag this, I see right away, okay, so this line was supposed to be collinear with that line. So I'll hold down the control key and select those two lines, and I'll select collinear, and now everything turns black. It's all fully constrained. I forgot to mention that earlier I had turned off the visibility of the sketch relations. An experienced user knows that these geometric relations are being applied automatically by SolidWorks, and so they don't need to see them. And so I just, after a little bit of time, just turn that off. So that would be what I would expect to be a typical lecture given by an instructor on a couple of key points, doing the diametral dimension, and doing the dimension from a line to the edge of an arc, using the symmetry, the dynamic mirror for symmetry, and then you would just next go in and revolve this, and you would have your part. So yeah, that's SolidWorks the easy way.